Hey guys, it's Michael Gascon, the Horse Guru, and we are working today on halter breaking a horse. This is Miss Cayenne. Miss Cayenne just got dropped off. Her trailer just backed up to these round pen doors, and I just roped her and got a halter on her, but she doesn't give the pressure yet, and she doesn't lead yet. So we're gonna take you through the process of how we get our horses to lead. First and foremost, you wanna get your halter on, make sure it's secure. And then this is the big mistake everybody makes. Everybody wants to pull a horse in a straight line, and you get that reaction, or they don't know what to do with that pressure because they don't give the pressure yet. So instead of doing that and trying to just pull the horse and getting yourself into a fight, once I get the halter on a horse, my first movement is to the side. So I want to start coming around here towards her butt, way out of her kick zone, and then at some point, she's going to get stuck. If she gets stuck, I'm going to hold that pressure until she starts to give to it. She's a curious little filly, so she's starting to want to look at me whenever I come around her butt. And we're going to turn this circle into forward. And what we're going to do is we're going to start circling. She's stuck, release. And release. And we're going to start turning this circle into forward. There we go. And I want her to think, as long as she faces me, hold, 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 and release. Hold, 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 and release. Hold, 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 and release. And this is good for your foals, for your Mustangs, for anything you can get your halter on to start the process of giving. So for her in particular, she came in here off of the trailer, and I was able to get a rope on her. I roped her and then just petted on her until I could get the halter on. So right here, she's stuck. I wait. Every time that her feet come my way, I want to release that pressure. So she starts thinking, oh, anytime I feel pressure, if I just move towards it, there we go. That was the first step forward. And release, and release. Now we're going to start making semicircles, and release. And now we're leading her, but not really by pulling her, just by going away from her. And release. Notice how I'm not really looking at her. I see her out of the corner of my eye, but I don't want her to be spooked from me looking at her. A lot of times too, you'll see me, I'll walk away from her and I'll slide my hand down the rope so she doesn't feel added pressure. Also, she's going to feel a lot more comfortable leading from this far away. A lot of folks are going to try to lead her from right under her chin to start, and she's going to be claustrophobic with that. She's not going to feel comfortable stepping into your space. There we go. So look, I have a 15-foot lead rope, and look how I'm at the end of it. That's really going to make her feel more comfortable coming in my direction. Now we're starting to create that draw. Every time that she gets stuck, I start turning. Every time she gives, I start going straight. Every time she gets stuck, I'm going to start turning. Wait for it. When her feet stop, or when I get to the end of the wall, I'm going to start turning again. Turn, 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 turn. Release. Turn, 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 turn. Release. So she's starting to see that it's easier to follow my back than it is to try to go away from me. Very quickly through pressure and release, it's going to be a lot easier for her to follow me, and we're going to get her halter broke. We're going to get her leading. This is the beginning of pressure and release. The more reps, the more steps that I take, the more times that I turn her. Every time I turn her, it's another rep. Look how relaxed my body is. I'm not being very assertive. If anything, I want her to be curious There we go. Good girl. To release her, we can approach. Usually if they're not halter broken, I'm going to pet them. I'm thinking, okay, I want to pet above their face. I don't want to be petting them on the muzzle, just in case they try to strike or bite. When your hand's up and above them, the likelihood of them striking you is a lot slimmer. Versus you everybody wants to bring their hand here under their face. Well, when things come under a horse's face, especially if they're unstarted, unbroke, their natural reaction is to strike it or bite it. So coming up above their eyes where you're bigger than they are really makes them where they're more likely to try to run away or turn. If she turns and tries to get away from me, well, then at that point I can face her up. Up above her eye. There we go. Want to be able to touch on both sides of her. Now, I don't want to get too far back with my pets because I don't have good control of her head. A lot of times when you see us that we are touching their flanks and smacking them on the butt and grabbing their tail and just desensitizing them overall, that's once they've proven to us that they're softer in the face. Right now, if she brings her butt towards me, I'm not certain that I could hold her face and keep her butt away from me. So we're going to do a lot more of this. A lot more of me pulling her face and moving that butt away from me. Starting to move her off here. Starting to get her feet moving. And she's starting to figure out when she starts to go forward. Good. Every time that she gets towards the end of that rope and she stops and shuts down, that's one more rep of her giving the pressure. What we're looking for here is for her to try to run off and get set off, and then her ultimately give to that pressure and up. Every time easier, see her licking her lips and processing what's going on. From out here, we can already start tossing that rope over her back. And again, this pressure, her seeing that even if she's uncomfortable, that it doesn't help her to run away, which is her natural instinct. Flip that rope over her back. Now there's something touching her. Good girl. She really gets in a mental dilemma there, and we're able to shut her down and get her out of it. There we go. Start wiggling this rope on her back. Wiggling this rope on her back. Notice how I keep jockeying for this position beside her shoulder. I keep moving my feet to get in position beside her shoulder. The reason that is when I'm over here, she can't strike me, she can't bite me, and she can't kick me without pulling me out of position. So as long as I hold on to her face, she won't be able to get her butt to me. That's a great place to be to convince her that I don't mean her any harm. I'm not going to do anything to her. Good girl. Good girl. So a lot of times people think leading is just pulling them in a straight line. So much of this is desensitizing them from the left and right. It's a lot easier whenever she really explodes and pops that I'm beside her, taking her butt from her. Everything about left and right is where we're in control. Everything that has to do with her beating us up, her running away from us, or taking a rope from us happens in a straight line. The softer and easier we can get her to bend, the easier it's going to be to control her. you're going to see the more we desensitize her like this, the easier it's going to be to lead her. Notice I don't grab the rope real hard here. I'm not putting a lot of pressure for her. But she's starting to think that the best place to be is behind my back following me because it's a lot easier for her. Good girl. So that was pretty good. 3/4 of a round pin leading before she shut down. And then every time I turn her, she's putting a belly in the reins, a belly in the lead rope, getting closer to me. All this directly correlates to how she's going to ride. She's never been led, never been ridden, and you guys are going to get to see all that. Good girl. Good girl. Every time we stop and start up again and get those feet moving in our direction, that's one more rep. Good girl. And that's how you get a horse halter broke to lead. If you like what you see and you want to see her have her first ride, I'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, we are back with Miss Cayenne. Cayenne is here. We just got her leading, just got her giving the pressure a little bit on the halter. Got done with that video. If you want to see how to halter break your horse, make sure you check into that video. But now we're going to go on to the next steps and go ahead and get her started. We're going to start in kindergarten. So we just got her coming towards us, and now we're about to push her away from us. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to walk off, stop, turn. Good girl. That was her first time backing. Good girl. So a lot of times these colt starts, whenever you go to start them, they're not going to back in a straight line because they're spooky. So whichever way she goes, I just pull the opposite way. If she melts off to the left, I'll pull right. If she melts off to the right, I'll pull left. Good girl. But we definitely want to get this done first before we start trying to really desensitize her as far as flags and tarps and things like that. Look how it's also helping her leading by me stopping and backing her. She pulls on me. Oh, she's going to be athletic. Good girl. So just like that, we got her backing up with no pressure. So we're going to move on to first grade. First grade is going to be undivided attention. My coils are in my lead hand, knuckles up, pointing towards the face. My push hand is my left hand, just has the popper in it. I'm going to point off this way. She doesn't know what this means yet. Wait for one step that way and release. And release. Now I'm going to start following that hip until she takes a step forward. Good girl. Good girl. So again, this is her very first concept lesson. So you saw how persistent, but also I was persistent and I was quick to give a big release. If you saw the Respect series with Cody, with a finished horse, I asked nicely, gave him a warning and told him, hey, go, and gave him some pressure. Here I'm going to be a little bit more persistent, and I'm giving her a lot more chance before I touch her, before I put that pressure on her. Now, I'm really looking at her flanks when I want her to go forward. I know you saw the Respect series, and with Cody, we were looking at his face, but that's a horse that already knows how to go forward. She doesn't know how to drive forward and give us her face yet, so if my attention's right here on her hip bone or her flank, That's going to really tell her to take her feet forward. Good girl. Also, me looking right here at her flank is going to make her want to look in my direction. So exactly what I'm doing here in first grade is going to directly correlate on how I ride. When I ride, I need to be able to pick up a hand, hold her face, and move her butt around. So if she can't do that, whenever she feels pressured, if she can't give her face, we have no business riding her yet. There we go. And for a colt start, you'll see how I'll pick my hand up. That's for her to already go ahead and start seeing something up and above her eye. I want her to think about running off and then feel that rope tighten. So you're licking her lips and processing, and then yield to that pressure. We say, well, in the respect series with Cody, you said to lower your hand. You are absolutely right. I would really like to lower her head, but I want to go ahead and do everything I can to prepare her for something being up above her face, above her eye. So more things I can get up and above her, even if it's just my hand, that's preparing her for me to be up there. If I do everything low and quiet, and then I'm the first thing up above her back, that could be a problem. If she's going sideways like this, just keep following, keep looking at the hip, keep following, keep looking at the hip. They step forward, release. And she'll say, oh, okay, anytime you're looking at my hips, you want me to drive forward. That is correct, madam. Notice she knows nothing about clicking, nothing about kissing. Already I'm starting to show her, hey, if I am clicking, I'm asking of something. If I am kissing to you, I am asking for something. The moment you do what I'm asking for, I'm going to stop clicking or stop kissing. What that's going to do is really going to create a language and a pattern between us where she understands when I'm asking of her. Once we do that, we're going to come up and pet her again, release that pressure, release that energy. Good girl. Especially with the unstarted horses, I want to pet high on their head because that's a lot less likely of them rearing and striking. A lot of folks want to come up from the bottom, but things that come from the bottom, just like if you bring a flag stick up from under their chest, you're a lot more likely to get a strike or a bite. From here, we're going to start desensitizing. I'm going to grab her by the face just like I'm pushing her off. The difference is I'm just going to relax my body completely, not even look at her, no pressure. Whatever I do on one side, I do on the other. No clicking, no tightness in my body. Throw this up and over her withers. Over her back. We're going to cinch prep her, and the way that we're going to do that is we are going to toss this rope all the way over where it's doubled up like that. And we're going to grab it and we're going to twist, put a little pressure, and release and pet. And this is preparing her for when she gets cinched up. Now we're going to touch her flanks. If she wants to move off, that's fine. I just want to keep her bent towards me. As long as she's bent towards me, those kicks aren't going to come my way. And as long as I don't let her shoulders square up with me, I don't have to worry about her biting or striking me. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. Just throwing this over her back. So I might use steam to get it up, and then I release that pressure, and now it's not going to pop. If you bring that pressure all the way down on her, it's going to slap her underneath. She might not be a fan of that. I'm gonna single my rope up here, go under, then up and over. Now again, we're gonna cinch prep her, double up the rope on her barrel, tighten it up there, good girl. Tighten it up again, good girl. You're gonna see systematically, we are gonna make her less and less reactive. Notice when she gets uncomfortable with things, how I just keep trying to jockey for her shoulder. I keep trying to move my feet and dance where I'm beside her shoulder, where she can't threaten me. Her natural instinct is to bring her butt towards me or to square up with me. When she squares up with me, she's threatening a strike or a bite by getting big and squaring up with me. So me being all the way to the side and continuing whatever's bothering her or tickling her, she's saying, oh, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Bring that rope, put it around her legs. Good girl. Desensitize those front legs now. Whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. And this is really going to allow us to be safer whenever we reach under there for the cinch. Good girl. The next thing we're going to do is grab our flag stick. Now when we grab this flag stick, we're going to walk away from her. Then we're going to go straight to her nose. We don't want to come from below her chest because she's more likely to strike or bite it, and we don't want to cover her eyes because she might explode forward. So straight to her nose, then to her cheek, then we're going to touch her body. When she explodes forward, we're going to bring this and put this in front of her face. We're going to touch her back legs, we're going to touch her front legs. Notice when she's going backwards and sideways, how easy it is for me to keep up with her. Staying away from her butt coming to me, staying away from her squaring up with me. So in that scenario, when I got to this side, she really wanted to straighten up with me. I just kept the flag right beside her face and stepped to the outside of the flag. I always want to keep that flag in between her and I, so I know where she's going to pop to if there's an issue. Now we're starting to cover that other eye, and we're doing that by crossing over the spine. Whenever I start doing this, I want to make sure that I'm making a circle and already bringing it back to my side, all in one motion, like so. This is really preparing her for somebody getting on her back. We're going to step right over here and grab our tarp. The secret here and the reason she's acting so relaxed is because every time she's tried to get set off or do something wonky, we ended up in a place where she couldn't threaten us. And when she tried to run off, she got redirected, so it just makes more sense to her to stay in one place. I'm going to give her a cape right here. If she wants to move off with that, she's more than welcome to. Then I'm going to bring this ball, pick this up and put it up above her back. Everything I'm doing is in preparation to put that saddle on her back. Notice all the things that I desensitized with: a rope, a flag stick, a tarp, a soccer ball. They're all objects that are light and easy for me to move with. Now we're going to ask her to move again with that tarp. And release. So whenever I want her to move, I just start clicking and bringing that rope to her. She doesn't know what that means. So I make sure the moment her feet move that I don't touch her again and I don't click to her again. And that's simply the communication of pressure and release. I want her to go a little faster once she's already going. The second she takes one trot step, I'll release her. Give her a pretty long line here, step in right behind her butt. And I can step in behind her butt because I'm far enough away. I'm far enough away that she can't kick me. Good girl. Notice how much freer her feet are moving? We're going to cinch prep again because she was a little touchy about it. I really don't want her bucking or having a bad experience with my saddle. So I want to make sure. Good girl. Good girl. That she's okay with that. You see her kind of bending her head my way? No big deal. I just pick my elbow up a little bit. Make sure she doesn't throw a little nip at me. Now I want to desensitize for that reach under for the girth. So what I want to do is I want to come right here and I want to touch her legs. I want to touch where the cinch goes. And I just want her to be okay with that. Good girl. The next thing that we're going to do is prepare her for the pad. This is a CSI pad. Everything that we've done, we've had the exact same pattern. So it's the first time she's ever had a pad on her. The reason she didn't have an issue with it is we've created a pattern and a line of communication where everything that I do, I start at her nose. I start at her nose, I bring it past her cheek and neck, and go to her withers. I've done this a half dozen times already between the rope, the flag stick, the tarp, the ball, and now the saddle pad. So it's just not a big deal. Again, I'm gonna come right under here and prep for that reach for the cinch. A lot of times we think about desensitizing up here, and we do that very well, and you don't prep for down here. And even though you haven't put a lot of pressure with the cinch, just the reach under, just the touch of those legs becomes a problem. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab my saddle like a pizza. Like I have a pizza tray, and put it above my shoulders. And the reason I'm going to do that, good girl, the reason I'm going to do that is so that I can set it down on her gently and not have an issue. I don't want to sling it up on a young colt who might jump off. That saddle's kind of heavy. It's hard for me to move with. I want to be able to stay with her. So if you are approaching your horse and you have your saddle by your side with two hands, the odds of you moving your feet and staying with your horse are very slim. You having the ability to stick with them for a stride or two while you shut them down, like you've done so many times up to this point in this one session, is your ability to make sure that do the best you can to make sure her first experience with the saddle isn't a bad experience. I'm going to get a wrap on the saddle. And I would like to get a couple wraps before I put any kind of tension on it. Good girl. Good girl. Notice how I keep staying up in front of the drive line. The drive line is in front of the cinch, and the reason I keep staying up in this area is because that shuts down forward. I don't want her to go forward until I'm ready. Now granted, she may feel just a little pressure and pop, and we're gonna step to the side and pull her around and try to shut it down. So before I put any pressure on her, I've already got 2 wraps of my cinch. There we go. Put my back cinch on. Perfect. Good girl. All right, so you see me reaching around to put that breast collar on. You remember when we did that with the tarp? Everything that we did was preparing us for this. Everything that we did is getting us ready to be able to saddle her up for the first time. This is the first time that she's worn a saddle. Now when she starts moving, she may have an issue with this saddle. So what we're relying on is our ability to shut her down and stop her by taking her butt away from her. Now we've done this again and again, so she's kind of stuck right here. Now first time she moves, you could have where she wants to surge forward. That's okay, you surged her forward on purpose again and again and again, so don't freak out. Just stay where you're not in front of the shoulders and where her butt's not around you. So first thing we want to do is get that butt moving, just like when we were leading her and she didn't know about being led. It's the exact same thing that we're doing here. So that hand up, she doesn't like anything up and above her face, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. Before she can square up, the reason we don't want to square up is because if she starts bucking blindly or running off blindly, I want her to not run into me. So if I can stay beside her, that's going to keep us from getting in a bind. Also, being beside us makes us where we're strong, and it puts her at a disadvantage, puts us at the advantage. The biggest misconception is that you guys are opponents. You guys are not opponents. It's not about winning or losing. You are the professor, she is the student. Now that changes sometimes whenever you get a rehab horse in that has already beat people up and knows it's a competition or thinks it's a competition, and you have to convince them that they can't get the better of you, they can't buck you off, then that is a competition, and you have to approach that like, okay, I'm going to win the day. If you win enough days in a row, you can change their way of thinking. For this filly, she doesn't know anything. So it's not a competition. I'm just showing her the way of being a saddle horse and how she doesn't need to worry, how it's not a real big deal. Ask her to move forward here. Let her feel that saddle moving on her. And oh, good girl. Good girl. So she's not holding her breath anymore. We'll cinch her up again. Find the next hole in the latigo, and we'll do it all over again. I'm really liking how forward she is. I'm letting her move around just to see what kind of movement she has. Oh. Let her canter off right there just to shut her down. The only reason I let her canter is to let her canter just to see if I can shut her down. So we've seen we can shut her down when she's scared, And now we're seeing if we can shut her down whenever she is moving at a higher rate of speed. These are the two things that we want to see before we ride. Then when we're riding her around, those are going to be the two things that we're going to dictate if we go outside or not. If we can't scare the bejesus out of her on the ground and hold her, she drags us, we go redneck skiing, you're not ready to ride. The other thing, if you do ride, you know she's doing pretty good on the ground, but you get in the saddle, and when she gets spooked, she just takes off with you around the round pen and you can't shut her down left or right, don't leave the round pen. You're not ready. The two ways to see if a horse is going to be resistant and still listen is whenever they're scared or whenever they're going fast. Notice how we're doing interval training. If you're paying attention, it's a lot of spaz her out, let her relax. Spaz her out, let her relax. See her licking her lips and processing? That's what we want to see. And we're kind of taking kind of a slow approach today. We're not in a competitive atmosphere. It's not a colt starting competition. The only thing that would change if we were in a colt starting competition is the tempo in which I was doing things. So if I had a time crunch or a time limit, I would just be doing the same things just with a little bit more tempo. But it's South Mississippi, middle of the summer, it's warm. I've got a nice filly that's not trying to murder us. So we're just taking things nice and slow. And this is slow for us. She's leading the first day. She's lunging the first day. She's giving to pressure. She's worn a tarp. She's worn a soccer ball. She's worn a flag stick. She's carrying a saddle. She's walk, trot, canter under saddle and give at all those speeds. So our slow is not necessarily the next person's slow. Move my feet a little bit. Walk towards her butt. Good girl. So what I like about falling in behind a colt start is you're going to be behind them when you ride them. So them getting used to that pull from behind them and that pressure of you being behind them is very beneficial. Us being right behind her there and her being okay with that is really important to us. There we go. Very nice. We're just going to pop this saddle, make some sound, make some noise. We'll come right over here and grab this soccer ball. So if you saw her halter breaking video, giving the pressure video, learning how to lead video, this is the same day. This is the same session. Notice how much better her leading has got once we pass that. This goes right to why I say you need to pass the grade, but you don't need to perfect it. If we would have waited for her to lead perfect, we may have been working on her for 2 weeks just leading, and really that progress coming slow. Since she passed it and she gave the pressure and she came our way, we moved on to the next grade. Now leading doesn't seem hard to her at all, and in 2 or 3 days she's going to lead like a champ. Because shoot, if you can ride her, if you can play soccer with her, if you can go on a trail ride with her, leading doesn't seem like that big of a deal. So now I'm just prepping her to have something up above her. Good girl. Good girl. Now I have one more test for her that I like to do. Notice here I'm going to put my reins on her, and I'm going to grab this clip, this double-ended clip, and it's going to go under her chin. Contrary to popular belief, it's not a curb chain, it's not anything like that. It just makes sure that we're not pulling sideways on that kidney knot. The kidney knot being the halter knot that's at the bottom of a halter, it's not built to be pulled sideways. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my spurs. I use my spurs for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only: for direction and collection. She doesn't know how to do any of those things, and she's nowhere near ready for any of those things. I'm going to be doing everything just with her face and her halter, so if we hop on her, we're not going to be using those spurs. Now we're going to take this rope, this is called the whirly bird, and we're going to go over her head, and we're going to go around her butt. Well, she might not like this rope being behind her butt, and that's okay. If she blasts off, we're just going to hold on to these reins and pull her our way. Nice. Now we're going to stop. Lead her away from us. There we go. And this is really getting us in close quarters with her, where she is okay with us being up and above her eye. There we go. If she gets in a bind, all we have to do is let go. All we have to do is let go and hold on to the lead rope, and she's just going to spin away from us. So this has been a really awesome tool to add to my colt starting, because you see how I'm behind her eye and in her space, and I'm able to shut her down in those moments. That really shows her how to be in close quarters with me, which is kind of important, seeing as how I'm going to be on her back. There we go. Good girl. Pull around this way. And I'm doing it in slow motion like that so she can see, oh, this means turn. Oh, this means give. Oh, this means move my butt. I want it to be real obvious. There we go. That was really nice. So she got a little claustrophobic with me being on one side, and I was able to hold the reins. But look at every time that I do this, how I'm able to go over her eyes. This is really important that I can put my hands up here, because again, I'm going to be sitting here on her back, and a lot of people aren't prepping this stuff. A lot of people aren't prepping up and over their face, and if you don't, you just do everything down here. Well, then when you change levels and you're up on their back, they might have an issue with that. They might not agree with you being up there. So here, you see how she's kind of waiting for me? She doesn't know if I'm going to pull her face this way, or if I'm going to hold on to this lead rope here and pull her around like so. I love how she is waiting for me. Up and over her eyes, just like this. So the past two times I've done this, she's wanting to walk off away from me. But now, since she doesn't know which way I'm going to pull her, she's waiting, which is exactly what we want. We're trying to make her as forgiving as possible. Good girl. Good girl. See if we need to tighten her up. We do. So there's this myth that you don't want to tighten your colt start up too much whenever you're riding them. It's a colt start. They don't know how to ride, so the odds of them getting in trouble under saddle are high. You want to make sure when they get in trouble that you are there sticking with her and staying on her back so you can keep her out of trouble. If your saddle is sliding all over the place, you're not going to be confident enough to see it through. There, she's just finding her way through it, and she found it. Notice how when she got stuck, I didn't let go. I just held on and waited. Same thing here. There we go. You see her follow that pressure with her face? That's what we're looking for. Everything is to the left and the right. There we go. There we go. She's walking a circle around me. My hands are up. I'm inside of her circle, right in her bubble. Then I switch directions here. She stops. She thinks about it. She changes her head, changes direction, and goes the other way. That's so freaking awesome. That really lets me know that she's a thinking type horse that's not too overreactive. That she can think her way through a pressure situation. Right there, she thought about going one way. I switched and went the other way. She's a little uncomfortable with that rope behind her butt, but she's not willing to run into my halter. These are the things that I want to see before I ride. Hands up. And again, my hands are up just to prepare her for me to be up and above her back. Very nice. Now we're going to mount prep. Do that by holding onto the lead rope. I'm jumping up. I'm putting my weight off the saddle so she feels that tweak on her spine and her body and her barrel. But also, I'm bumping right here on her shoulder. A lot of times people are shaking the stirrup leather. A lot of times people are putting all their weight off the saddle and their little toe goes right through the stirrup and just book, just boop, right there on their shoulder. And that horse takes off because you didn't desensitize that. Just like whenever you're preparing to put the saddle on and cinch up, if you haven't reached under a few times, if you haven't touched them where the cinch goes a few times, you'll think you have desensitized them, everything's fine, and when you reach under there, the horse jumps before you can even get cinched up. So I'm gonna step here. Good girl. Good girl. Activate that other eye with my hand. Step around. Good girl. And I want her to know exactly what's going to happen if she steps off. Good girl. If you can't shake that stirrup leather on the other side, don't step up here. The next thing, keep your back straight, your chest straight. If you flop over like a fish and you're half on one side, half on the other, then when she goes to have an issue, the odds of you holding your balance, right there she kind of hops off. I simply just step down, pulled her around. It's just one more rep of her thinking about surging and then ultimately being redirected. So as long as she can figure that out, every time she thinks about surging, she thinks that she's going to get pulled around, more importantly, very quickly she's not going to want to surge off. Bend her around a little bit here. Good. Good girl. 3 is my lucky number. I don't like to hop on and just ride off for the first time because I don't want them to think every time that I get on their back they're going to go somewhere. Good girl. Now everything that I do right now is up here in front of the drive line. My heels are down. I'm petting her, letting her know, hey, everything's okay. Keep her bent to one side. Once you swing that leg over a colt start, you're married to that horse. So, through thick or thin, I'm sticking with you, hopefully. Pet her, touch her. When I feel like she's calmed down, she's took a breath, that's it, honey. Notice I'm not trying to hide. I'm not trying to be quiet up here. That's it. Good girl. Good girl. Remember that circle that we started with today, just showing her how to lead? Look how we're using that same circle. If you can get them soft enough where you don't feel like they can take off with you, it's okay if she gets spooked at me being up here. It's okay if she takes a fast step or a hot step. What we don't want is for her to get a bad experience through that. So now I'm in the other eye, so she's kind of nervous all over again. So I just want to keep her bent until she relaxes through it. Good girl. Every time she tries to straighten up, I bend her head to the side. I bend her head to the side. Good girl. Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Good girl. So we're just showing her how to flex right now at a standstill. That's it. Just working on my steering wheel. Letting her, hey, I'm on both sides. We got on by activating one side, really. Activating that left side. So I want to know, hey, if you switch sides and I go from one side to the other, which is what happens every time she turns her head. That's why she kind of got re-spooked. She was okay with me over here, and when she turned her head, oh, you're there too. Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm sitting in your blind spot. Just want you to know that. Bump her head to the other side. Good girl. Good girl. Look how I'm sitting up here like a sack of potatoes. The back of my saddle is touching my belt. My lower back's popped out. My heels are down. Weight in my stirrups. I'm doing everything I can to be as stable for her as possible. I want to be like Gumpy. I want to go wherever she wants to go. Good girl. So right there, I started pulling left. I don't want to let go until she comes back left. Even if she circles off to the right. Just like when the rope was around her butt. I'm just looking for that next step, that first step of trot. Good girl. The second she starts trotting, I stop clicking, I stop moving my feet. Whenever she wants to break down, whether that's half a round pin, a whole round pin, 3 round pins, whenever she stops, I'm not going to pressure her right away because I want her to be comfortable with that. So she's pretty comfortable on this side. We're going to switch her to the side she's not as comfortable on. So here I'm pulling to the right. She went left first. Notice how I didn't quit. I didn't give up on it. Only one rein at a time. You can use that spare hand to hold onto the saddle if it makes you more comfortable. You don't lose brownie points. You are on a colt start. There we go. Good girl. Look in that moment. Most people have a real hard time when they're asking a horse to do something, even if the horse doesn't know how to do it. They start asking the horse to do something and the horse doesn't do it immediately. They switch what they're doing. Notice how I clicked right there. If you rewind that, I clicked there for probably 15 seconds, which doesn't sound like a lot until you're the one up there mashing the gas pedal or turning the starter over and the vehicle's not starting or not going. Feels like forever. But that's really what allows them to know what I'm asking for. So here I'm bumping. I'm bumping with my left leg, outside leg. And release. And release. And release. And release. And we're just trying to soften up this right side here. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Now you could tell she's more uncomfortable on this side by how high she carries her head to this side. On this side, when she's turning right, her head's high. To that left side, she carried her head pretty low because she was a lot more relaxed to her good side. Notice, as soon as she moves her feet and gives me her face, I release her face. That's my way of telling her she did a good job. Good girl. Right here, she's going the wrong direction. I just stick with it, stick with it. Keep bumping, keep bumping, keep bumping, keep bumping, and release. Keep bumping and release. Keep bumping and release. Keep bumping and release. Keep bumping and release. And release. Keep bumping, and release. So right there, she got a little worried, a little nervous, but I didn't follow her with those nerves. I didn't get excited with her just because she was excited. I just stayed bumping my horse, stayed moving him in that direction, and waited till she turned the way that I wanted. Good girl. Good girl. Look how her head's starting to drop. That's what we're looking for. When her head starts dropping when she's giving, that means she's becoming easier and easier for giving. There we go. Good girl. That's what we're looking for a horse that can just relax and put their head down whenever we're riding. So now, a lot of times, ideally, we would like walk, trot, canter. Good girl. In the very first ride, very first session. But it's a case-by-case scenario, and I don't want to ride the try out of her. It's a little warm out. It's the summer in South Mississippi. Notice how we haven't gone anywhere, but she's sweating. I really don't want to start by riding a horse past this point. I believe in this so much that if we go catch horses out of the field to start, if they break a sweat, we won't start them. In my younger days, we would catch them and start them, everything right there in the same place. Now, if they're sweaty before we start, we don't start. We give them the day off. We try them later on that day or the next day. We want them relaxed and easy. So for her, you guys are going to follow the next 60 days with her and see how she turns out and see just what we do each and every day. So day one, put a list on it. Day one, she learned how to lead, give the pressure. She learned how to back on the ground. She learned how to give left and right and give us her undivided attention and be soft. She learned that it's okay if we desensitize her with a rope, flag stick, tarp, soccer ball. She learned that she can carry a saddle. She learned that she can still give whenever she has a saddle on her back. We prepped her for mounting. We got on. We got the steering wheel, the start of the steering wheel installed, left and right, where we pick up a rein. And she's already thinking, look how soft she is on day one. If she's this soft on day one, she should never get stiffer than this. The only reason your riding horse is stiffer than this colt start, and I see it happen all the time. Look, one finger is turning this horse, and this is her very first day. There's no reason for her to get stiffer than that. Good girl. If your horse is stiffer than that, it's because your timing's not there, and we're not being clear. Now, the two most dangerous points on a colt start is getting on and getting off. Well, we've already got the getting on part. So now getting off, I want to activate her eye, really suck up that inside rein, have her head pulled this way, hey, activate her, touch her, have all of her attention on me, and in one motion, I want to step off. Good girl. Good girl. And that's about as good of a session as we can get without risking riding the try out of her. You see how she's dripping sweat? Really, that's just heat. We haven't really gone anywhere. We haven't really worked her too much. That's just mental energy and the fact that it's warm outside. So that is a great first day. She had no bad experiences. She didn't get in trouble with the saddle. Those are the things that we want to see in the first time we ride a horse. Them giving the pressure, them comfortable with us, being up and above their face. If we can do that, her life is going to be an oyster. Whatever she wants, she's going to be able to do because we start putting down the fundamentals just the way that we want. Oh, but you move so fast, you're going to leave a hole, and ultimately she's going to blow up. No, because tomorrow we're going to go through the exact same steps and make sure we didn't leave any holes. The next day we're going to go through the exact same steps. We're not going to stop going through each step until we feel absolutely ridiculous. When she looks at us like, really? Come on, guys, I know how to do this. When she gives us that look, then we'll move on to more advanced stuff. So if today it took us 45 minutes to get on her back, tomorrow it'll take us 15. The day after that, it'll take 5. The day after that, we'll be able to cinch up and ride because she's going to pass the test so quickly, so easily. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this, and keep watching. For Cayenne, you're going to be seeing her for the next 60 days. Thank you so much for watching.
But wait, there's more. Give me a code word.
Code word?
Yeah.
Okay. We want a code word. We're giving away something. My wife has that glimmer in her eyes whenever she gives away stuff and makes more work for me, and I love it. All right, what are we going to give for you? Let me think. Let me think. I got to get a good code word. Good code word. Purple parrot. Purple parrot. If you're the first person to send this purple parrot to Gascon Horsemanship at gmail.com, watching this live, you're going to get a free week stay at the retreat. Make sure you don't want to sign up. Purple parrot. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, guys, so we're here. We just started Miss Cayenne. She just got trailer. Fella, what did you think about that? You guys just pulled in and backed off the trailer.
Yeah, like you said, 45 minutes from the time, literally out of the trailer into the round pen. Y'all just saw it. Y'all just saw it. He had the saddle on her.
These folks live right up the road from us, so we were able to start her immediately when she came in. She wasn't worn down for the trip or hot or sweaty. If a horse comes in from 8, 10, 12 hours away, we'll give them a day's rest and then start them. But for this particular filly, they live right down the road. They pop right over. She didn't lead. She didn't give the pressure, so we had to show her how to give the pressure. And like I said, what'd you think about that, Cowboy? We didn't get any bucking. Was it too boring?
Yeah. Pretty boring.
So if you're in this for entertainment of seeing the cowboy die, I'm not dead yet, so it's probably not going to be too entertaining. Our goal for these horses is to be able to get them through the learning process without getting uncomfortable. And I'll say that's pretty drama-free.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed.
He said, "Oh, buddy, I think you're going to have your hands full. We got a chestnut mare, and I tell you what, she's a little waspy. You might have some trouble there." Turns out, we just kept putting one building block right in front of the other. If you guys keep watching this, you'll get to see the next 60 days of her progress. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you sign up. See you guys.